Hi there. Welcome to week 2 of Religion and the Biosphere. And this week on Monday, we're going to be talking about the creation account in Genesis. And I'll get to that in just a second, but I want to start with something that you might not completely expect to be connected, which is a discussion about human population growth over time. If you ever get a chance to visit the American Museum of Natural History in New York, it's a great institution and talking about the history of the development of life, but they have one video that they display for visitors, and it's really effective in showing the growth of human population over time. So they estimate the first modern human, and they're spreading around the globe, so it's not like they're all kind of in one location. They start out in Africa and then they radiate around the globe, but there's just not a lot of human beings. Then you get to about 10,000 years before the present, and then you get a spike upwards. And this is the agricultural revolution. And you move from less than 1 million people up to, by about 1 AD, 170 million people. Now, what's interesting about that is that all of what we think of as world religions, so Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam's going to come a little bit later than that, but you can still think of it as part of this general movement. All of our world religions are going to develop during this period of the agricultural revolution. And there's 170 million people around the world. That's just not a lot of people. If you think about how the population of the United States being something like 330 million or so, that's less. If you took half the population of the US and then spread those people all around the globe, that's what you would be looking at. It feel like a much more sparsely populated globe than what we have now. And this connects to Wilson, going back to our reading for today. On page 13, he talks about this kind of past human view of the natural world. He says, for millions of years, human beings simply went at nature with everything they had, scrounging food and fighting off predators across a known world of a few square miles. Life was short, fate terrifying, and reproduction an urgent priority. Children, if freely conceived, just about replaced the family members who seemed to be dying all the time. Nature was something out there, nameless and limitless, a force to beat against, cajole, and exploit. So that's the first thing as you were reading Genesis, and then as we'll look at other religious traditions, is just to kind of rearrange our notion of what the natural world felt like for human cultures in the past. It wasn't something that was, burdened and being affected by humanity, but was something that felt limitless, expansive, and threatening. And so that's one way to begin to think about how Genesis is presenting the natural world. Now, we get to 1 AD, and we've got about 170 million people. And all our religious traditions, our major world religious traditions, are products of the agricultural revolution. Then what happens is we go on another AD, you're up to all the way up to 180 million, not that many more people. Then you keep going and you grow, and the curve increases a little bit. And you get to, by about the year 1800, 850 million people or so. Now that's an important time because it's from then that you get this really steep curve from the Industrial Revolution. And that takes us up to where we are today at about 7.7 billion people. So that's a massive amount of people. And if you watch the video that shows this growth, you'll see just this real popcorn of lights going on all around the world as people are added and population is added. Now that's the way that we see the world and our approach. And it leads to, burdening of the world's resources and environmental change, and really a whole new set of concerns that religions have to face, right? And so that's part of the way I want to sort of begin to think about Genesis. Is it came at a time when the world and the human relationship to the world looked like one thing, and now we read it today in a vastly different and changed situation when the human burden on the natural world is completely changed. And that's going to be one of the main questions we ask, is how can religious traditions meet this new kind of population setup that we're looking at. Okay, that's the end of the first video. I'll come back and give another short one, kind of introducing you to Genesis itself.